My name is Travis Blackmore. I'm the executive director for a local not-for-profit called Lionhearts. But I grew up as a pastor's kid. Very interesting life. Do we have any other pastor's kids in here? Yeah, man. Right on. I grew up in church, and I remember being 4 years old, and I remember watching the drummer on the stage. I grew up in a church that had drums, and I remember always being told I needed to be quiet and sit down and face the front, but I remember seeing the drummer and going, oh man, he gets to hit that stuff, and no one tells him to be quiet. I want to do that. Bad. And my dad used to let me come to church with him on the off days, and he'd put me on the drums and put on like Christian rock bands so that I could just pound out and try to figure stuff out. And I was 4. I couldn't even reach the pedals. But little did he know that that would inspire in me a desire to want to do that as a living. And I spent my whole life pursuing that to the point where I was 20 years old and my dream came true. I got hired as a drummer, and I was getting on an airplane, flying to California to play at a major festival, and I was about to embark on the biggest tour of my life. 6 years in, I'm touring, I'm working my way up the ladder. And it seems awesome, right? It's such a great story. This little kid got interested in playing drums. He got inspired to go play drums, and it all happened. Like, wow, how many times does that get to happen? Not a lot. But you see, something happened as I was touring and as I was in pursuit of this dream. This thing grabbed onto me called alcohol and started to drain everything from me. And I remember waking up one morning in the hotel, totally can't remember what happened last night. And the phone call came through from my boss saying, dude, you're done. You're flying home. Your plane ticket's purchased. You need to call someone to pick you up at the airport. And you see, what I didn't mention was that I was playing in Christian music. I was playing in Christian bands because that's what I knew from the time that I was a kid. So you would think I knew better, right? You would think, hey man, you grew up in church. You should know better. Your dad was a pastor. You should know the straight and narrow way, man. But you see, I was the pastor's kid that always wanted to cause a ruckus. And I thought, man, this dream was amazing, and now it was crashing in front of me, and there was nothing I could do to hold on to it. It was slipped right through my fingers. And I remember the embarrassment of calling my wife and saying, hey, you need to drive to Syracuse to pick me up because I've just been fired. What? Why were you fired? You see, I'd been hiding what was happening. She didn't know the extent as to what was going on in my life. And I had to face the music, not just to her, but all of my friends at home, my awesome pastor dad, and all the rest of the church people that think, oh, the pastor's kid's off playing in Christian band, telling the world about Jesus. I came off the road after 6 years of touring, steady, hard touring. In 2012, I did 211 shows, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of hiding. And I got off the road, man, and I was super angry, super bitter. I hated church. I hated the people in it. I didn't want to go there. And a friend of mine said, hey, Trav, man, like, you've been on the road doing what you're doing, hiding stuff, and your wife has been at home, you know, in pursuit of her faith and what that looks like. And, you know, now you're in the doghouse. He said, why don't we do a small group Bible study at your house? I looked at him like he had 3 heads. Because I'm like, no, that is the last thing that I would like to do. And he said, well, it might get you out of the doghouse. That's a good point. Will we have coffee and donuts? And he said, we can do that. So reluctantly, I said yes. I made sure that it was small. I didn't want a lot of people there. But there was coffee and donuts, so, more donuts for me. And I can remember thinking, what in the heck are we going to study? I'd been to Bible studies, church day in, day out, my whole stinking life. And I just remember thinking, I've heard of small groups. This is intimidating. I don't want to do this. What are we going to do? Sit around and kumbaya in my living room? And he brought this book by a guy named Francis Chan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he wrote this book called Crazy Love. And if you haven't read that book, I would challenge you to check it out. Because you see, it wasn't the church that made a difference. It was the love that changed everything. And I can remember being in that small group and my whole world just turning right side up. And even though I grew up in church, this guy started to phrase things in a way that I had never heard before, ever. And I can't count how many hundreds, thousands of church sermons that I had ever heard my entire life. See, what do you do when a dream just slips through your fingers and has just seemed to be ripped from you? What do you do? How do you start over? I'd heard this phrase, churchiology phrase, but you hear it in other places too, called calling. Oh, that's your calling. I found my calling, like it was hiding. I thought my calling was playing drums, man. I could do decent enough to get paid to do it and travel around the world. Must be my calling. But it had been all ripped from me. But through this small group, my life flips upside down. I can remember falling to my knees in the middle of this Bible study that I had so ridiculed, surrendering my life to Christ for the first time ever in my entire existence as a churchgoer. You see, you can be so inside something and never really hear it. And I had new ears for the first time, and I remember going, listen, I thought this was my calling. What do you have for me as a calling? Where do you want me to go? Because that old guy back there that woke up and couldn't remember what he did the night before, I don't ever want to go back to that. And if you have something better for me, like you're saying through this guy, and you love me unconditionally, where do you want me to go? Because I'm going to go there. And dude, I get critical at church. Somebody says, hey, you know what? God told me this. Did he? What did it sound like? What's his voice sound like? Sorry, I could just be critical. But I feel like sometimes you're fit for the Loony bin when I hear some of that stuff. And I heard his voice talk to me and go, hey man, I want you to reach out to your backyard. You haven't volunteered a day in your life. And I'm telling you right here in this book and right here in this Bible that whatever you do for the least of these, you're doing it to me. So if you feed someone that's hungry, if you clothe someone that needs clothes, if you befriend someone that needs a friend, if you love your neighbor, then you're doing that to me. And you see, my life had just got flipped upside down, and I went, light bulb, I'm going to do that. I don't know how to do that. I've never volunteered a day in my life. But I'm going to do that, and I'm going to find other people that do that, and I'm going to lock arms with them and get them to teach me, even though it's uncomfortable, and I'm going to go there because I want to make a difference. I don't want to be that old guy pursuing what I wanted. I want to pursue what you have for me. I'm going to check that 10-minute mark. Oh, I got 30 seconds. Oh, yeah, snap. You ready? Micro Machine Man, real quick right here. Kidding. Do you remember the Micro Machine Man? Anybody? No? Okay, lame joke. Sorry. Epic fail. Do you remember? Come on. The Micro Machine guy used to talk a million miles an hour, those little cars that your kids can choke on. Don't worry about it. That's what YouTube's for. Anyway, I started to reach out to my neighborhood. I got some friends around me that started in my small group, and we started to reach out. The first place I went to was a nightclub, because I knew this nightclub had a coat check. And the guy says to me, hey man, you want to start passing out some coats that get left behind here? Because there's all kinds of people that forget their coats here at coat check, and we usually throw them out. So if you're looking to do something for people on the street, I admire that. You're going to help me and get these coats out of here. So why don't you take them and give them to people? And I just said, yeah. Because I'm going to take those coats and I'm going to give them to Jesus. I'm going to find people that need them, because if I'm doing it for that, then I'm doing it for Jesus. And that's how it started. That's how Lionheart started. The next thing, one of our volunteers that came along into our crew, he says, man, I work at Costco. I love what you're doing with these coats, and we throw tons of food away. Would you and your crew be interested in picking up some of the food that we toss? I said, guaranteed, man. I was so amped up. Sometimes you can run into things too fast, so take your time. I show up at the gate. The gate rips open. There's 800 pounds of strawberries sitting on the dock. What am I doing? This ain't a drum kit. We started taking strawberries to the same places we were handing out coats to. And Lionhearts was born, and we became a mass distribution unit for food and clothing. We've been doing that in Kingston for 4 years. We've been doing it in Ottawa for just the past year. So we're going to be the new guy for a long time. I still love music to this day. I can't get it out of me. I'm sure a lot of you feel that way. I see some incredible talent here tonight. We started a cafe that's a dry live music cafe. We have one in Kingston. We're opening one in Ottawa on May the 4th. As far as I know, in Kingston, it's the only dry music venue. I'm not sure about Ottawa, but every Saturday night, starting on May the 4th, at the Biker Church in Vanier, we'll be live. Rock, country, blues, folk, whatever. Just a little plug in there, just like shameless plug. But anyway, I say all that to say I don't know what I'm doing. But I can tell you this, I didn't want to go back and be that old guy. I've been sober for 5 years. And I believe, I don't think you need to have faith. I don't think you need to believe in God to understand that people need food, they need love, they need clothing, they need dignity. But I'm saying what I found in my faith was a purpose and was fulfillment for my life. If you're looking for that, I can help you find them. You got to do you. But there's people that want to help. There's people that need your help. All the people that are speaking up here tonight, man, you guys are helping people. Don't stop. Don't go that way. Keep your eyes that way and keep looking that way. Thanks.